The meeting is called to order. Let's stand for the pledge.
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To welcome everyone to the February Committee of the Whole meeting of the Community High School District 94 Board of Education. Mission statement, please.
Community High School strives to promote and provide growth experiences in learning, leadership, and living.
Thank you, Rich. Board agreements, please.
Closed session meetings. Board members respect the confidentiality of privileged information and will not divulge conversations, discussions, or deliberations that take place during a closed session meeting. Board members understand that to divulge closed session information not only damages the relationship of the team, but has the potential for far-reaching consequences, which may impact future district operations.
Thank you, Lynn. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Casey Mayer?
Here.
Ms. Doremus?
Present.
Ms. Munoz? Here. Mr. Nagel?
Present.
Mr. Seek?
Present.
Mr. Suniga?
Okay, that brings us to public participation. This is the portion of our meeting where any member of the public can address the Board of Education on any topic. We welcome your comments and will carefully listen to your concerns. We will not be able to engage in a dialogue during public participation, but when appropriate, we will direct the administration to follow up. Presentations are limited to no more than 5 minutes per person, with a total time limit of 30 minutes for public participation. If you wish to make personal charges or complaints against individual employees, volunteers, or students of the district, we request that you send the board your concerns in writing rather than stating those concerns during public comment. If anyone currently present wishes to make public comment and hasn't already done so, please fill out one of the comment forms in the back of the room and hand it to someone seated at the table. At this point, we've received no electronic or in-person public comment forms, so we will move to reports and information. Teaching and learning.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me tonight for our third board presentation this year regarding academics. Before we begin tonight's overview of our journalism program and the Wildcat Chronicle, I wanted to give you 3 brief updates. In October, we discussed our Grading for Equity initiative and a few of our policies, such as the 90% summative and 10% formative gradebook requirements, as well as students' ability to retake summative assessments. Last week, Brittany Walker shared the list of the D94 students who were recognized for their outstanding academic achievement during the first semester. 659 students qualified for the honor roll with a GPA of 4.0 or higher, and 277 students earned the high honor roll recognition with a GPA of 5.0 or higher. The names of all the students were linked in last Friday's e-news, but I just did want to recognize the students' families, our faculty and staff for their efforts that have led to those honors. As an update about our November COW presentation on pathways, I wanted to share that 65 students representing the classes of 2025, 2026, and 2027 have requested geometry and construction, our new double block math and CTE course. So as a result of this, we'll have the opportunity to request running this course for the first time in August. One final update. At table, you received a document that summarizes the Acceleration Act, which requires school districts to revise course placement procedures. This is something that's occurring from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. As you can see here, the key points are that this act requires automatic accelerated placement into any English, math, science, and or social studies for any student who meets the district benchmarks on one or more standardized tests. So as a district administration, building administration, we've decided that we're going to be using the PSAT, SAT scores. In the document that you have at table, you can see the different ranges there that have been identified by the College Board as identifying a basic level of proficiency. It's important to know for this act that parents must opt out rather than opt in for students to participate. So what that means is that any student who meets those benchmarks has automatically been loaded into that honors or advanced placement course that would be next, and families would need to choose to complete an opt-out form in order for the student to take a regular level course. Students will be informed about this acceleration next week during a DEN study hall presentation that Dr. Dwyer is going to do. And then ultimately, at the end of the year, districts are required to enter acceleration data into SIS. So the state will want to know how many students opted in, opted out, and especially in which subject areas. So with that, we'll transition to tonight's presentation, which will highlight our journalism program. It's a component of our D94 English department, as well as part of our student activities program because of the Wildcat Chronicle, which is run by an English teacher, Leslie Fireman, who's here this evening. As a side note, it's also her birthday, so please have special gratitude that she's here to join us. I'm going to speak very generally about the history of the Chronicle and then have the 4 editors of the paper who've prepared a presentation for you. They're actually going to speak, and then we'll conclude with a snapshot of 3 goals for the program going forward. I'm sure that there are some historians at the board table that would be able to speak much more intelligently about the district's newspaper history. I'm going to share just a little that I know. So first of all, the current Chronicle staff worked with the members of the West Chicago library staff to archive copies of the newspapers that go all the way back to, actually I think 1926 is the first one that is on the website. At that time, the inception in 1924 was when it was called WeGo, to celebrate West Chicago. As you can see from the few excerpts that are here, it's a charming example of kind of 1920 sensibilities. You see the be at the game on Saturday, the we go is the go-getter motto. Even the brief clip that is there on the new pass slip system, if you can look at it closely enough, it says, some pupils abused the privilege of leaving the assembly, and because of the abuse of privilege, the students now have this stricter pass slip policy imposed upon them. So, you know, very different tone and very different expectations at that time. By 1970, there was a new, quote, independent school newspaper that replaced WeGo. They called it The Bridge, and it looks like, if you take a peek at this next slide, there were 5 students and then a faculty member who began this paper. Of note are their aims that they have listed there on the left: to report the news, explain its significance, and provide influence for students to take action, in addition to just entertaining the reader. Ultimately, by 1992, the student paper was renamed Wildcat's Chronicle, as you can see up there, which they changed to the current name Wildcat Chronicle that same year. Although I would like to recognize the work of all of the sponsors who made it possible for students to experience such a quality journalism program, I do not have all of their names, but I would like to acknowledge the work of a recently retired English teacher, Laura Keene, who sponsored the paper for more than a decade and influenced dozens of student writers over the year. Currently, now that we are under the direction of Leslie Fireman for the 3rd year, I'm hoping that the kids can express to you the progress that they've made in terms of content, technology, and the sophistication of the paper, which is really remarkable. After you've had a chance to hear some of the 23-24 editorial staff talk a little bit about their mission, which is serving a community as a community resource that promotes critical thinking and sparks conversation in a way that sets the standard for high school journalism, I think you'll see that they're incredibly serious and successful. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to the senior editorial staff of the Wildcat Chronicle, and there is some story that I do not know that they are fondly nicknamed the Fab Four.
Okay, so what we have projected on the screen is basically our chain of command in the journalism class. So if we start at the bottom, we have our senior reporters, and these are people who have already taken the prerequisite of journalism and are joining us in the production class. They're responsible for creating content, writing articles monthly, and then as we move up, we have our section editors, and these people oversee sections of the newspaper. So we have a features, review, opinions, and sports editor. They are managing the content coming in from the senior reporters, and then checking in with us at the top weekly, just so we know what's going on. And then we have our managing editors.
Go on up and introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Sasha. I'm the editor-in-chief. Sorry. Not you guys.
I'm Kiria Manjolo. I'm one of the managing editors, and this is Dan Virgil.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Gill. I'm sure most of you know me already. In the back of these board meetings, every month I'm there scribbling furiously in my notebook. I'm usually getting interviews for these, so I'm sure I'm a familiar face to most of you.
So as the managing editors, we kind of split up the newspaper in a way. I oversee reviews now, and I also assist with helping the senior reporters into getting them producing content every day or every week.
Yeah, I feel like one of the greatest things we have as managing editors is our ability to lead leaders. It's really enjoyable and really inspiring to be able to teach people how to become leaders since we have so much seniority in this publication. And especially for our, I think we're up to six editors total now. It's really inspiring to be able to take control of a section and watch as the section grows into leadership of somebody who's completely new and bringing brand new ideas to the paper, which you've never seen before.
Yes.
My name is Emily Jayor. I'm the multimedia manager at the Wildcat Chronicle. I basically oversee the whole multimedia aspect of the paper. So anything from photography to videos, that's kind of the general direction that we kind of look at. Some of the new positions that we have applied for this semester include photo editor, video editor, multimedia package coordinator, overall just generally because of the fact that we have more people in our journalism program, we have kind of broadened our spectrum to allow other people to be leaders.
So a little history about our team. In 2020, there were 4 team members. In 2021, which was the first year I took journalism, we had 41 team members, so about an average class size, a little more than that. And then today we have pretty much doubled. We now have 85 team members in the span of 2 years. What happened? We had a big change in structure. So previously, only the journalism production class was able to publish for the Chronicle. And then if you were in the regular journalism class, you were kind of just learning. But now, when you're in journalism and journalism production, your content is getting published on the newspaper. We also had some curriculum changes. We started incorporating more multimedia, so working on photo and video skills. And we have incorporated new things, reviews, opinions, and not just focusing on news and sports. So this class is very unique. It's not like any other class I've taken at the high school. It's mentorship is a really huge thing. When you are in the journalism class especially, you have this team of journalism production students who are in the same class period. And so we're always in the classroom helping them with their assignments, just assisting them if they need anything. With that, we also have committees. So for things like fundraising, social media, and social, we give people an opportunity to have leadership positions and kind of lead our fundraising efforts or our social media posts. And it's just a really great team bonding, which we also do team builders, because the paper would not work if we did not work as a team and we did not know each other. So it's really important that we get to know each other and build as a team. And then that also helps us produce content together. So we might have someone write the article, someone taking the photos for the article, and then they kind of come together to make one big piece. that's really cool.
So one thing that really sets apart the Chronicle from other newspapers in the state is that we're a daily publication. So we publish at least once a day. Some days, most days, probably twice a day. And we also update Instagram constantly, thanks to hard work from not only our staff, but also to our advisor, Ms. Fireman. And we also update things like X, and we also send out press releases as well when we have notable events going on in the Chronicle. So with that kind of like factor of constant publishing and getting exposed to deadlines and working like an adult in the real world, we kind of treat this program like a business almost with the way it's set up. And I feel like something that's really important to consider when we look at other newspapers in the state. I mean, I'm sure that we've done things that are like really, really impressive, but then at the same time, what's even more impressive is how quickly we're able to do them as well. And speaking of our speed, one thing we can do is we cover things that are outside of our community as well. So as you see in the image there in the bottom of the presentation, that is Charlestown Mall. That was a shot that I took. And it's really cool being able to explore new areas and visit new cities and other areas just to get a feel for their community and also report it and share it with the citizens of West Chicago. It helps build a kind of community presence we have as a Wildcat Chronicle. I should also point out that during these kinds of like trips that we have, that some people often volunteer to do these different things, so to go on these trips, to go take photos, to go to write or cover events, to go to interviews and whatnot. One of our most popular sections is the review section, and we will constantly have people saying, like, hey, I want to go to this restaurant, and this restaurant's like 20 minutes away, but I'm going to go there anyway. It might be in Chicago, but they'll volunteer and go sign up to go not only get their food, but also take photos, sometimes do a vlog. We've done a lot of vlogs recently on restaurants. So it's a really impressive thing just to see how much people are willing to volunteer and really step up for this program. I feel like it's not possible without the amount of deadlines and the amount of leadership that we really instill within our students, especially as students ourselves. It's really easy to see how much of an impact we've had recently in the past 2 years.
Okay, so going more into the multimedia presence, throughout this year, we have had quite a bit of like multimedia like evolving and whatnot, especially through like grants that we've gotten for cameras, not only through the school, but also like from other like organizations. But we have not only produced like photo essays, we put out like video content like Vox Pops to go with our articles. There's even a podcast, which I'm a host in, is the Crazy Plant Ladies, where we're trying to not only be consistent, but also like intrigue our readers and have people come back to our website. Another thing that we recently started doing is What's the Word We Go on our Instagram. Basically, it's just a rundown of announcements in a more accessible format for students. And nearly 95% of all our photos are taken by the staff. So that's just something that we really prioritize and have really done well in.
So there are two sections of the Chronicle that are unique to only our newspaper, and those are the top fives and the Humans of Wegos. So a top five piece is basically a short form article where you can write about pretty much anything. That's something that's really unique about the class too. Students have the opportunity to pick what they want to write about. So I really enjoy top fives because I can write about anything that interests me, not only what I'm assigned to write about. So one thing that's interesting about this section is that SNOW, which is the student recognition program, which all school newspapers use. So they recognized us and said that our top fives would be a good thing to model after. So all student newspapers received that email. And then our Humans of Wego pieces are really exciting too because they are an opportunity to feature students and staff and members of the community that are unrepresented or people find interesting. And so they're our longest stories, and they really are in-depth about students and staff.
Okay, our stats are something that I know I'm very proud of, and I know everyone else in the class is very proud of. We get about 9,500 unique visitors each month. So that's basically people coming to our website outside of like the D94 community. And then we get about 2,600 views per week. So we publish daily. So we get views on the articles we publish daily. Sometimes we'll also get views on old articles we've published. And then we get about 11,800 articles read each month. And I just like to like think about that because I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people. I mean, that's like more than students we have here that are coming to our site and viewing our content. It's really cool.
So aside from being just a newspaper and writing about things, we also do competitions. And competitions are a great way to really enhance your writing skill and meet new people as well. It's a really fun way to model your writing after someone else who's maybe willing to teach you some skills you wouldn't have learned otherwise. So at the Chronicle for the past 2 or 3 years, we've won like a ridiculous amount of awards. I couldn't count them on both my hands if I tried 3 times over. So I don't need to gloat or anything, but I'm going to anyway. And last semester, the journalism production team had a chance to attend the JEA conference in Boston, Massachusetts, and there almost everyone, I believe everyone competed in some category or other, and I competed in editorial writing, which is writing about opinions on certain topics. Topics are assigned, of course, and they're shown to you at the moment you begin writing. And I ended up with a superior distinction in editorial writing, which is the highest you can receive in the nation. So I'm very proud of that. And just last semester as well, I went and competed in IHSA sectional tournaments, which I won first place in. Fun fact, I did that on a train in New York City, on an MTA train. It was very fun, and I got first place on that. And then I also received 5th place at state. Another fun fact, that was on prom morning, so that was very fun. I should have commute to Bloomington normal was 2 hours, but it was very enjoyable, and I'm really thankful to not only the school for giving me the opportunity to be able to go, but also to JEA, NISPA, and my advisor, Leslie Fireman, as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sasha to talk about NISPA.
Yeah, so NISPA stands for the Northern Illinois Scholastic Press Association, and basically each year we submit pieces from our site in each category of writing and multimedia. Last year we had a pretty big sweep. Blue ribbons are the highest honor, and as you can see, we had a lot of our staff earn blue ribbons, and then also some honorable mentions. So we did really good at that last year. Yes, yeah, we did get recognized as the best publication in Illinois, digital publication in Illinois. Oh, okay. So Best of Snows, we have 7 awards this year, and we also have our Snow Distinguished Site Badge. That's just basically we submit stories that are on our site, and then Snow kind of judges them, and then if they pick it as a Best of Snow, it gets published on their website, and so it's like what everyone in the press world is looking at. So we have had a few this year. We had one on Brittany's Trees. We had Emily won one in the fall, and then also Dan Veer mentioned his Charlestown photo essay. That also won a Best of Snow. Yeah. Yes, and we have many more. Many more.
One of the greatest things about journalism and the Chronicle in general is that we go on conferences, and I believe we're going on another one this spring to Kansas City, but previously we went to St. Louis, and we also went to Boston, as I mentioned earlier. And conferences are something that really sets apart journalism from other programs at the school. While they're still great, I don't know how many other clubs at the school end up going out of state to the other side of the country to go compete. And it's such a great and interesting process because you get to bond with people you never thought you'd bond with before. I never thought that I'd take journalism my junior year and then end up in St. Louis less than 2 months later. It was a really fun experience, and I learned so much I'm never going to forget. And most of it was how to be a leader, and I think it's something that's really important in today's modern age. People need to be leaders, and I feel like journalism is such a great avenue to that, especially when you're writing about something. Writing something that almost anyone can do. All you need is a pen and a paper, or in our case, a reporter's notebook and a Chromebook. So one thing that we learned a lot during conferences is that we can really branch out and connect with people we never thought we could connect with before. And also, it's overall a really fun experience. I'm going to forever remember the times that we had family dinner during Boston, because it was really interesting. Everyone's having a great time. We're all having great food. And we're also like really learning about each other and like how to really work with each other the best way possible. And this is something that I hope that we can keep doing in the future, even after we've all graduated, because we were all seniors on this editorial board.
Yeah. Like with conferences, it's like a really great chance to, you get away from home and you're by yourself. Like I didn't have my parents or anything, and like it really gave me the confidence I needed to be like, oh, like I can go away to college next year. Like I was able to take care of myself and like I was okay. So yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't planning to speak today, but I'm Leslie Fireman. I'm the advisor of the Wildcat Chronicle, and I'm the teacher of the journalism program. It's very surreal being here tonight because I actually used to be an editor for the Wildcat Chronicle 24 years ago, and it's come quite a long way since then. So moving forward, though, in the next 1 to 3 years, there are really 3 key goals that we're looking to achieve. Number one, we are looking to keep our momentum going. We've won a lot of awards, as the students mentioned, and we want to continue to put out really strong content that is worthy of being considered for merit in that regard, especially the NISPA Golden Eagle, which we missed out on last year, and that was a sore point for us. We also hope to increase enrollment. We have been particularly targeting underclassmen. We tend to get a lot of seniors because it is a senior elective English class, but we would love to start bringing freshmen and sophomores into the class. They are eligible to take it with the hopes that they can kind of grow with the program and stay with it, move into more advanced roles. We'd also like to start pushing into the middle schools, offering workshops, maybe even tours of the journalism lab so that they can get a feel for what high school journalism is like. And then finally, one of our long-term goals is to explore course options. We would love to see journalism become a year-long class, or to even look into dual credit options for journalism. Whatever it seems like might benefit the students of West Chicago Community High School. And so we'd like to keep an open mind about those as well. So with that, I will let the students say thank you, but we really and truly appreciate you having us here, and we appreciate all of your support as well, whether that's saying okay to us going on a field trip or what have you. We're big fans of the Board of Education, and we appreciate that everything that you have done. So over to you.
Board members, do you have any questions?
Does the Chronicle ever come out as print media, or is it all digital these days?
So currently, we don't have any print media. It's going to be 100% digital year-round. However, we have explored some ideas. I think we had flip books, but those end up being digital as well. But in the future, we could have some print publications. But at the moment, we're staying digital just because it's the fastest way to get news from our desks and our Chromebooks to our readers.
But you can't sit on the bus and read a digital.
Yes, you can.
I can't.
Pull up your phone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see how far this program has come over the last several years. It's coming from, Rich referred to the print version of it that came out monthly, and this is really nice to see how much it's grown and the number of people involved in it. So thank you very much.
You have another question. Forgive my ignorance in journalism, but can you tell me what an editor does between releasing the information and where the reporters are gathering reports?
Sure. Yeah, so editors are not only writing their own content, but then they are also editing their peers' content and then getting that ready for publication. So what that would look like is making sure all the grammar is correct, making sure it's formatted correctly, because we have a special format we have to follow on our digital newspaper, and then getting the photos ready, captioning those photos, putting the headline in, getting that piece ready to go out. So they're kind of taking the work from the reporters, putting a little magic on it, and then sending it out.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate Ms. Fireman and her team. And as you said earlier, leaders are super important, but I want to congratulate all 4 of you because you spoke with such enthusiasm, and that is the best way to recruit new team members and new students. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you for a fantastic presentation, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Wonderful to hear what you guys are doing. All right, that brings us to Johnson Controls Fire Protection Proposal and Service Agreement.
It's going to be a hard act to follow.
It will be.
Definitely more boring, that's for sure, but equally as important. So on behalf of Mr. Oberg, I did want to talk a little bit with the board about the Johnson Controls Fire Protection Proposal and Service Agreement. You may be aware that we contract with Johnson Controls to oversee all of our control systems for those systems. In a recent inspection, and if you look at the second page of the packet, there's a scope of work that's identified. There were a series of devices, items, switches, detectors, et cetera, that are in need of replacement. So Mr. Oberg did work with Johnson Controls to develop, in where they developed a proposal for a total of $15,008, and Dan will bring this proposal to you formally at the next board meeting on February 20th. Okay? Are there any questions about the scope within that package?
Do we coordinate with DLA on some of the improvements they're making and make sure we're not spending money on some infrastructure that's going to be ripped out in a summer or two anyway?
Absolutely.
I was just curious how often they come out and do this, inspect everything.
Lynn, I'm not sure what the frequency is, but it is definitely at least annual.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be at least annual, but I don't know, and I can check with Dan to find out if it's more frequent than that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, that brings us to Transportation RFP results.
Okay. Again, on behalf of Mr. Oberg, I did want to review. He had mentioned to you at a previous meeting that earlier in January, there was an RFP put out for regular and special ed transportation services. That included a pre-mandatory meeting. At that meeting, in fact, I think he had already informed you that we actually had 10 providers show up to that meeting, which was exciting. The proposals were due at the end of January. 2 service providers submitted proposals for regular ed transportation services, and 5 service providers submitted proposals for special ed transportation services. So within your packet, there is a chart spelling out what those proposals were. Mr. Oberg is in the process of reviewing those, checking references, and then we will be bringing this back to you also at the February 20th meeting. If he has additional information that it would contribute to decision-making, we will share that with you through a weekly update before the February 20th meeting. Okay. Were there any questions about that?
It looked like our current contracts were up in January, so between January and now, we're working without contract?
No, actually, and thank you for asking that, because the first sentence of his memo, it kind of reveals that. The contract actually goes through the end of this year. His wording of that first sentence was a little odd. I think what he was referring to was that on January 6th, that RFP was released. That's what that was referencing.
Okay, so the contracts normally go year to year rather than school year to school year, is that?
School year, so fiscal year. So it would go July 1st through June 30th.
Okay, that would make sense, but the way it
Yeah,
looked, it looked
Yeah, and
like
I
it was
apologize
calendar.
that I didn't catch that when he originally had submitted the memo to us. But yeah, I agree, that was a little bit confusing.
Okay.
Yeah, what he meant was that's when the RFP was released. Any other questions? You will note that the cost of transportation services is going up significantly. That's not unique to our community. That's happening all over the place. All school districts are struggling with that. That's a significant budgetary item. Okay. And that is all that we have on those 2 items.
All right. Summer construction bid results.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Good evening, everyone, and happy birthday to Leslie, if she's still here.
She's gone.
Oh, there you go. Good.
Dinner.
The board has a memo from Dan regarding the summer construction bids, and just briefly to highlight it. In October, you'll recall that the board approved the letting of bids for summer construction projects. In January, there was a required meeting of any contractor who wanted to submit a bid. And then on February the 1st, those bids were due electronically. The bids were opened at a Zoom meeting, as indicated in the memo, and also as attached to that memo. The bids were favorable, lower than expected, and there's been some due diligence work done by DLA regarding the companies that have submitted the bids. The lowest bidder is unknown to the district, and whereas the other bidders, especially the one who was second in line in terms of the cost, has done work for the district. So between now and February the 20th, that due diligence will be completed by DLA and Dan will then bring a recommendation to the board on February 20th for the summer projects. Happy to take any questions about those bids.
Okay, hearing none, summer food service program.
So the board might recall that last summer the board approved and the district offered a free summer meal program to students attending the high school. There is a law, federal law, that indicates that if your low income threshold exceeds 50%, then you are required to provide free meals to any student under 19 in your community, not just in your high school. Our threshold is now 50.5%. So we are therefore required to provide that meal service. That meal service would not necessarily be limited to the school building. In conversations with Dan, we have identified a couple of locations in which that food service program could be offered in addition to the high school. And right now, there are two options available to the school. One is called the summer, and pardon my having to look at my notes here, the summer food service program, and the other is the seamless summer program. Both are federally funded, both are federally reimbursed, one at a slightly higher rate than the other. However, there are some restrictions that are differ between those two options. So between now and February 20th, there's going to be some work done relative to which one we would recommend to the board. And Quest, our food service program, is going to provide a quote, as we assume maybe some other vendors will as well. Obviously, Quest has some advantages to that, but we'll see what the quotes are. So at this point, what we simply want to notify you about is, one, we've exceeded the threshold of 50% at 50.5. Number two, we have to participate in one of these two programs, the summer food service program or the seamless summer option. And number three, that we are going to be getting quotes and make a determination and then a recommendation to the board on February the 20th.
Is there an idea exactly what the breakdown is in terms of reimbursement percentage approximately?
The memo, there is several tables, links there, Gary, I'm sorry,
Okay.
that you can identify. But as an example, the current reimbursement rate for the summer food service program is $5.2125 per student, whereas the summer seamless option is $4.25. So the reimbursement rate, it isn't,
contract.
yeah, and it isn't just about that. There are other restrictions that would perhaps inhibit us, whereas some are less inhibiting, and I think what we're probably looking for is something that is flexible. And one of the decisions to be made is exactly at what other points besides the high school do we offer the program. It's for any student under 19. and there are a couple of locations that we have in mind. At this point, I think no, the eagle hasn't landed.
Thank you.
When you say up to 19, how low is that?
Lower than 19 or
19
lower.
and below.
Up to nine, so
So a
6-year-olds?
Yes.
And how does, like,
One-
elementary schools cover that as well?
One of the items that we talked with Dan about was coordinating with District 33 especially to make sure that these efforts are benefiting our community. Because District 33 currently does participate in one of these two programs. I'm not sure which one. And so Dan has already been in contact with their business person to see how those efforts might align.
Okay,
Just
so
for the
it
benefit of
extends
the
from high school down to
Anybody
elementary
under
schools.
19. Kathy?
There are guidelines from the federal government as to what foods are allowed to be served, as there are with their lunch program versus the state.
There are some nutritional guidelines, yes.
Are they as god-awful as they usually are? Because in my experience and what I've ever heard from people, when the federal government's involved, most of the food gets thrown out because it's so horrible, nobody wants to eat it.
I can't answer that question. As long as Twinkies are offered, I'm good.
I don't
I'm
think the
teasing. I'm
federal
teasing.
government allows
I'll give you a
Twinkies.
little bit more
But,
deliberate answer than Twinkies.
No.
A lot of sour
want the
milk
deep fried?
and,
Yeah, deep fried
very
Twinkies.
old carrot sticks. but
There you go.
No Twinkies.
You know, one of the things that we'll be sure to do is when Dan makes that recommendation at February, we'll have those guidelines.
And the question I had is, since it's beyond students that are enrolled in the summer program, which would give us an idea of how many lunches we would need, how do you figure out how much to prepare, how much to be ready for?
We asked
And-
that very question.
Yeah, and how, is this advertised then within the community or?
Yes. Yeah, I had extensive experience with this in my previous school district.
Oh, good.
And it is very challenging.
Okay.
And again, the importance of coordinating with your elementary school districts, especially ones that are as closely located as District 33's are, that's a big part of your ability to be efficient with your efforts.
But I would. He's had it for a while now,
I don't know how long, but they have had it, yes.
so certainly we can learn from them what their
Without a
experiences have
doubt,
been.
Yeah. Yep.
Lynn, I would point us back to the days of the pandemic, and we worked with Quest Food, and we didn't know what the demand would be, but they did a really good job of communicating with us using a lot of non-perishable food that we could then repurpose for future days as we figured out what a consistent level of demand would be.
Oh, good, excellent. It just seems a little overwhelming.
Yep. But they're a great partner. I think them or anybody else, we can work through and figure it out.
Okay, thank you.
Since 33 is already providing this, are they required us to provide it up to age 19 also? Or are they just for their students?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so there might be
So-
some carryover already.
Correct. So the reason I referenced my previous experience with this, it is really important to do that in a coordinated fashion, because if we have students who live over by Indian Knoll School and don't have a way to get here, they can be served at Indian Knoll School just as if District 33 has that as one of their sites. I don't know if they do. I just know that that school is far away. So it is important that you coordinate that. And Dan was already aware of that. So Dan had already talked to their business person to find out what they had done in the development of what this might look for us.
It seemed to make sense to coordinate the food offerings also, so that a student started picking one or the other depending on which they prefer. If you have to serve all ages.
Yeah, and you can do it with two different food service providers. The two school districts can have, we did, in my previous district we did, the high school district had a different provider than we did. They coordinated together. It actually worked very well. It was not difficult to do. The biggest challenge is what Lynn had brought up, was how do you anticipate how many you have to be prepared for. And there's not an easy answer to that. You can't just say, oh, they have to sign up, or they literally can show up and you have to serve them.
What percentage of the eligible students take advantage of this program? Do you have a rough idea from your previous experience?
From my previous experience, it was a low percentage, but it changed depending on the day of the week, depending on the weather, depending on the time of the summer, what else was going on. There were a lot of variables that impacted it.
That makes it hard.
Yeah, it did make it hard. But if you're thinking about it from the perspective of helping your community and supporting your community, it's worth the effort. It absolutely is. We have
How does this information get out to the parents, to the families?
all of the regular ways that we communicate with families. You know, certainly we have digital means to do that. There are, in my experience, we had also sent paper items home at the end of the school year informing parents, but then we had distribution lists, email lists. We also would post flyers or banners in like the local grocery stores, and so our families would be aware of it.
Go in the Wildcat Chronicle.
It definitely could. It would be the perfect place. Yes, yes. And we'll have Don Veer write an article.
Yes.
There you go. Got an assignment.
It actually wouldn't be a bad idea.
Oh,
Twice a day.
twice
Yeah.
a day.
This is one meal a day?
Right, that brings us to health insurance renewal rates.
Thank you. The EBC held the preliminary renewal meeting last week, Wednesday, that Dan and I were able to attend. I think we were all hopeful coming out of the last couple of years that we would see those rates reduced. And I think realistically, we've started to realize we're just not at that point yet. So we can give you a sense of what the D94 preliminary insurance renewal rates are looking like. Again, these are preliminary. We won't know our final rates until the end of March. For our PPO, we're looking at a 9.3% increase. That is one band above the average. So it's only 1% above the average for the EBC. For the HMO, we're looking at a 12.9% increase. That's actually the EBC average for the HMO. And for dental, a 7.4% increase, although they anticipate that number will come down a bit more significantly by the time the final renewal comes around. A lot of the high renewal rates are really being driven by pharmacy. And that's sort of a shift that we're also starting to see. There are a lot of new drugs that are hitting the market that are specialty drugs. They're very expensive, but they're preventing folks from having to then go have inpatient stays at the hospital. And so you're seeing sort of a shift of that cost that may have been paid out in a different way now shifting over to pharmacy. And you're also seeing a lot of new, robust pharmaceuticals that are coming on the market that are hitting some more, I guess, less rare disorders than you did in the past. And so for that reason, the frequency of these drugs is going up quite a bit, and that's adding to the per member per month costs that they're seeing. So I think that helps for us to know, and certainly is something that we're preparing to deal with as we go forward. We knew that meeting was coming up on January 31st, and so we had scheduled an insurance committee meeting. And so again, that's comprised of members of both of the associations. Dan and I sit on that, and our insurance consultant from Gallagher. And so she came out on Monday. We were able to share this preliminary information. And as we discussed with the insurance committee in the fall, the intent is to start to explore plan change options. At this point, I certainly don't have enough information. We're going to need to come back together and discuss those further. But of course, we would need all parties to be on the same page, including the Board of Ed. Some of the types of changes that we could look at would be adjustments to deductibles, to co-insurance. I mean, there are a lot of different options that we can look at. Pharmacy co-pays could be another opportunity, and that could differ plan by plan. The way that it'll work is that they will apply whatever the final renewal rates end up being. They'll apply that rate to our current rates first, and then whatever adjustments we make, they'll make on the back end. So we will see those, presuming that we do recommend some changes in the new plan year. And of course, with the insurance committee continuing to meet, we'll meet again next week. We hope to be able to bring more information at minimum by March, and hopefully a recommendation even by the end of March before we get those final numbers back. So I just want to open up for any questions you might have about health insurance renewal. I'm not always the bearer of good news. Sorry about that. Great, thank you.
All right. Next up, new textbook proposal for 2024 to 2025.
We have a very short list this year, but as you will see on the proposal form, our current textbook for our advanced placement statistics course will be 9 years old at the end of the school year. And as you may recall from previous meetings, you can only use a textbook that is 9 years or less old for an AP course to approve College Board acceptance of the curriculum. So in this situation, Mr. Balhan, the head of the math department, as well as our AP stats teacher, Mr. Hayes, are recommending that we move from the 5th edition of our current book to the 7th edition of the same published text. So that will make us more in date. That text has been reviewed by both of them. They feel very excited about it. Also, this time around, we would look to go with both hard copy as well as electronic access. As the board is well aware, having both of those mediums is very helpful for everyone. Still, there are students who like to have that hard textbook, and it's definitely an asset, but at the same time, it's also very advantageous to be able to access it online, as well as there are additional add-ons that the additional $40 per license will give students as they navigate the textbook. I'd love to entertain any questions before I remind you about what our process is with textbooks. Okay. So as a reminder, process-wise, after tonight, assuming there are no objections, we will display this text publicly for 30 days in our district office. At the end of that 30 days, I'll come back to the March Committee of the Whole meeting and share any feedback or other concerns we may have received, and then ask for final approval at the March regular board meeting. And then myself, Mr. Oberg, and Mr. Balhan will go through the purchase process with the appropriate vendor to have them ready and loaded into our system in multiple ways by the start of school.
Okay. Spain exchange, spring 2025.
Right, as seems to be a recurring theme now that the pandemic is over, foreign travel is very popular. So we are back again to do another exchange, and very excited. Ms. Gill is ready to organize and work on this, and that we would again have another opportunity to send our students to Spain. They would stay with families, they would be immersed, and then on the fall, we would welcome a group of students here from Spain as well and have a very similar experience to what we all got to enjoy this fall when we had students here as well. So very exciting, and I'm happy that we're getting this to be more of an annual event. But obviously, with it being slightly over 250 miles, we definitely wanted to come to the board for approval on this, which we will ask for formally in 2 weeks.
How many students take advantage of this?
It's a great question, Lynn. So we need 14 is the what the company wants in order for us to get the preferred group rate. Now, we have a great relationship, so we actually, our trip to France is going to have a slightly fewer than 14, but we were able to keep the rate for the most part. 14's great. I can't remember off the top of my head how many went, but I think we've had upwards of 20 who will go on a Spain trip. Our Spain trips tend to draw from a larger pool of classes, so we tend to have more kids who sign up for that. Yeah.
If I can just piggyback onto that, next Thursday, there are, I think, 13 German exchange students who will be here for about 2 weeks. And those 13 students are divided, I think I saw, among 8 or 9 sets of families. So that's the exchange coming the other way is happening again. As Will mentioned, in the fall, we had a group of students as well. So just to let you know.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Weninger. And it really is, the exchanges are different than the trips, and they're great. Our kids went to Germany in June, and now we'll return the favor here in the spring. Yeah.
It is wonderful to have these exchanges and the foreign travel opportunities again available to the students.
It really is. It's something that sets WeGo apart, especially the exchange part of it. We're not just going on tourist trips. It's really a rich event and experience.
Okay. That brings us to USCF National High School Chess Championships, April 4 to 8, 2024.
Yeah, I do want to give a quick plug. Our chess coach, Mr. Cash, he's in his second year here. If you may recall, he came to us from Whitney Young, where he was a very successful chess coach there as well. This is a new experience and event that he would like to build in the program. If you may remember, last year the chess team was the conference champions for the first time, I think, since 1996. So he definitely has a program going in the right direction and would like to take the team to Baltimore to have this experience to definitely increase their immersion in chess and to give them some more competitive experiences.
Sounds very exciting.
Right.
All right. PE Division Head and Assistant Athletics Director positions.
So since 2010, the position of Assistant Athletic Director and Division Head for PE have been combined into one role. And then also on top of that has been the Director of the Aquatics building. It's been a large job. And from 2018 to 23, Mr. Perry occupied that role. And as you recall, this summer, Mr. Perry was promoted to the position of Athletic Director after Mr. Pater was promoted to the position of Assistant Principal. And at the time, it being mid-August, we knew that it was going to be exceedingly difficult based on the applications we received to fill that position in a one-for-one format. So as you recall, we did interim postings for both of those and filled them internally. One person took on responsibilities of PE division head. We gave a teacher 2 additional release periods as well as a stipend. That's Mr. Zapital. I do want to give him a shout out. He's done a wonderful job. And I believe is at the hospital welcoming baby number 1 as we speak.
He is, but still answering emails.
I know. I may deactivate the account for a few days. And then Miss Abdishi filled the role of Assistant Athletic Director. Again, 2 release periods for her to take those roles on. Both of them have done a wonderful job. But we are at the point where it is time to look at what the future looks like. We did put an interim tag on both of those roles. So my recommendation is, as I look at the job responsibilities and looked at, and I'll be frank, the inordinate amount of work that Mr. Perry did for 5 years. He was here day and night, and the responsibilities I observed were very difficult, and there were ebbs and flows in both responsibilities that would at times be very difficult, that required some extraordinary effort on his part to make sure he met his job opportunities. What I would like to look at, and I'd like to recommend in the future, is that we split the positions. And what I mean by that is we look at the PE divisional role as a traditional division head. So the same level of responsibility. And for the record, our physical development department has a large number of teachers. We're at 15 staff members. So one person would be the head of that department. And then we would look at the assistant athletic director role as a stipended position that would be available to our Teachers Association for a licensed staff member to have 2 additional release periods as well as a stipend, but they would then have those responsibilities not only of the rentals of our facility, which, by the way, the demand for that has increased exponentially, especially since the pandemic. They would also have additional supervisory responsibilities for athletic events, as well as a multitude of listings that we provided in this memo. Additionally, I will say the social media and different public relations aspect of athletics has changed dramatically as well too. So it will help to have one person whose focus can be more dedicated to that. The third page of that attachment gives you a breakdown of the cost differentials. So I know that if you look at the 22-23 school year was the last year that was held under one person. It gives you the cost. What I can say too is, just as I think about our hiring experiences we've had, I don't feel confident that we would be able to get one person to do both these jobs, as well as the aquatics director on top of it, for what we saw as that previously. So it is a slight increase in terms of the overall investment, but I think it's a much more significant return in terms of what 2 people will be able to do. It also gives us an additional opportunity for members of our association to find leadership opportunities and to grow themselves and to find some of those to have that opportunity to be a leader, because as we know, we're a 1-school district and we have a lot of great potential leaders in our team, but we don't always have as many openings as we have ambition. So this would be an opportunity to give that back to our teachers as well too.
Well said, and I really like the things that you added to the assistant athletic director. A lot of promoting our school, which I think is vitally important. So
I really want to give credit to Mr. Perry and Mr. Pater, who have been our past athletic director and current. They really worked diligently with myself, Dr. Wenninger, Ms. Swartzloff, to really say, if we had 2 people, what could this really be?
Yeah.
Because frankly, it was Herculean, but Mr. Perry was He was running as fast as he could to get it done, and to add the additional things would not have been feasible. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding that? All right, and finally, bilingual school psychologist intern request.
I would like to explore the opportunity to offer a school psych intern position next year. You might recall a couple of years ago, we had a couple of school social worker interns. It was a wonderful opportunity, and we saw out of that, we were able to develop some staff members who then, when we had openings, became school social workers, and they're both incredibly successful. I also want to share that there is a candidate on our radar who's very interested in coming to West Chicago High School to complete a school psych internship, and it's a bilingual candidate. I can't tell you how incredibly difficult it is to find school psychologists. Bilingual school psychologists are absolutely a unicorn. And so looking at this is something that could be mutually beneficial to the district, to develop more opportunities to create that licensed educator pipeline, knowing that we have retirement on the horizon as well, and looking at opportunities to continue to build those partnerships with universities, which is so critical to us as the educator shortage, unfortunately, it has been very real. And so I would like to bring a recommendation to add that position to the February board meeting. Looking at comps in nearby districts, an appropriate stipend that would be commensurate is $16,000. It is significantly more than what you see with school social work internships, but that seems to be in the ballpark of what's appropriate. Any questions?
Great idea. Thank you.
I appreciate the support.
All right, then. That's the end of our items for open session. And before we adjourn, just a quick reminder to board members, Evie has a sign-up sheet for one-on-one meetings between board members and Kurt. This is an important part of Kurt's transition plan. So if you are able to, before you leave this evening, if you could go take a look at the open time slots and see if you can find one that works for you. That being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
2 minutes over an hour. It was almost a new record.
That's because Dan wasn't here.
Thank you guys for listening to our presentation today.
We'll blame it on Dan.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, unfortunately, our lives are very busy. Ms. Fireman's birthday, of course, was today.